Hey guys, this is Mark. In this video, I will be reviewing the multiple choice data type available in Backendless. It is a special data type where internally underneath it uses the string data type, which I have reviewed in one of the previous videos. But multiple choice provides some extra value where it makes it easier for you to make selection for a value or multiple values and visualize those values accordingly in Backendless console. That visualization actually goes a little further than just Backendless console in the concept that we call views and visualizations, and those will be discussed in a separate video. So everything that you will learn, not only it will make it easier for you to manage your data when you use console, but to start working with that data outside of console with, once again, visualizations. So let's take a look at multiple choice and see what configuration options it provides, what they mean, and how to work with them. I will be using the same schema that we had reviewed before. It is a schema for a table called person, and we'll already have one column that has the multiple choice data type, and that is iColor. Let's take a look at it and see what the configuration options are. I will click the edit icon here, and this is the configuration that we have created a while back. So since multiple choice uses string internally, some of the options that are available with string are available here as well, such as the maximum length, default value, and constraints. And all of these were reviewed in a video for the string and text data types. Where it becomes different is the actual configuration for various labels and values that become available for this data type. As you can see here, when we were creating the iColor column, we came up with these values, and as you can see, the values are green, yellow, brown, and black. You can assign any color here, and I assign the colors that represent the actual iColor for a person. Some of the things that you can do here, once you have identified these values, you can rearrange them, put them in any order that you would like. There is also sort values option. It doesn't really sort anything here on this screen, but when these values are displayed in Backendless console, they will be sorted accordingly to this configuration. So for instance, right here, if we sort it like this, click update, and then if we go back to data browser, notice that the values here are sorted in this is going to be descending order, like basically backwards from the alphabet perspective. And if I go back and modify that sort order, then and update, and then they will be sorted differently. So it starts from black and goes all the way to yellow. Here, in addition to this, you can either enable or disable colors, and that's very straightforward. Use validation is a very important option here. Whenever you have use validation enabled, what will happen is that the values that will be accepted for the column, for this particular column, are going to be the values that you have identified. So here we have use validation checkbox selected, and then what's going to happen is that if I go to REST console, and in the REST console, let's try to create a person, and let's put name as let's say Dave, and the iColor will be set to red, which is an option that we don't have available. This is going to be sufficient in order to attempt to create an object in the database. So click put, and you will see that there is an error that says that the validation for the iColor property failed. And the reason it failed is because we are trying to use a value that does not exist in the list of acceptable values. As soon as I change it to one of the acceptable values, which is green in this case, then creation of that object goes through. So that's the use validation. Now, use values / labels. If this one is not selected, then the label that is displayed in Backendless console is going to be the value. And this is exactly what we have right now. So as you can see right here, these are the labels. And then once you select one, the value that will be associated with that record is going to be exactly the same as the actual label. However, in some cases, you may need to store some other value associated with the label. So in this case, if you select this, then you can define the actual value and label. Label is what's displayed in Backendless console whenever you are creating a record. And whenever you're using API, you have to use value. So labels are strictly for selection of the corresponding value in Backendless console, but for all other purposes, it is going to be value. So that's the values and labels. Multiple selection, if you select it, will allow you to select more than one value. And then with iColor, it doesn't really make sense. So for this, I will demonstrate another option to demonstrate how multiple selection works. By the way, adding additional values is as simple as clicking Add Value, and a new one is created, and you can just populate it with whatever makes sense in your case. So let's talk about this multiple selection. A good example for this would be something like, to continue the theme of the entity person, perhaps languages that the person speaks. So what we could do is we could create a column called languages, and in there we can create a list of all the languages that could make sense in the context of your application. However, what I wanted to do is to demonstrate actually a feature that is also available there. So for this, I will create a column called languages, but for now I will keep it as string, and you will see why. So here's languages. Now I will go in and will populate the database with some data. So for instance, it's going to be English, German here, and let's say French here, and this, let's say this person speaks Spanish. And then as you can see here, I used more than one and enumerated it with or separated with a comma. And let's say this person speaks Japanese and Chinese. Okay, that's going to be sufficient. So now we have some data, and that's perhaps how you start with your database, where you import it from an external data source, and we'll talk about import in a separate video, but let's just say that's what you have in the database right now. So now if I go back to schema and select languages, I can actually convert it to multiple choice, and notice that Backendless analyzed all the values that you already have and created these as individual values. Okay, so now if I select multiple selection, click update, see what happens in data browser. Now we actually have all these languages as tags with the corresponding value, and you can actually visually see the actual languages. Now for other people, since we have it as multiple selection, we can start selecting, let's say, English, and we can add Spanish, and we can add Chinese. So this way you can already start operating on the data set that was created for languages and benefit from multiple choice. Then the question may be, well, once you have multiple selection for a record and you have more than one value, what is it going to look like when you retrieve that value? So for this, let's say we're going to retrieve a person with the name Joe. And this is kind of basically looking ahead a little bit, because we haven't really discussed data retrieval API. So for this, I will show you that I can use a query where, say, name equals Joe, and click get. And in here, this is the response that we get. Notice that in the languages property, the languages column contains English, comma, German as a string. So it's one string that contains all the values that were selected, separated by comma. So that's how multiple selection will format the data that you have in your records. Very straightforward. So again, I think these are all the options that exist in there. We have reviewed pretty much everything. Very handy feature that actually will go above and beyond what I have shown once we start looking into visualizations, because the colors and labels and values that you have identified will come into play for other things once you start visualizing your data. That's all I have prepared for you for the multiple choice data type. I hope you found this useful. Thank you for watching this video, and as always, happy coding.